because even if it's my wife or son or friends, I mean, Steven also probably wants to kick my ass every so often, but 15.
And welcome to another episode of the Convoluted Podcast. It's your host, Jesus, aka Tyrant Dominus, and today's guest I reached out through mutual context, and I got one of the hosts from Science Faction. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name's Devon Craft. I am one of the hosts of Science Faction, the Science Faction podcast with Steven Dominguez. We talk about science in our podcast for half of it, and then science fiction in the other half. We also, him and I, are the owners of the BS Podcast Network, which has a few podcasts on it. I haven't counted lately, but it's like 10 to 15. So that's who I am. How I think you heard of me. Of course, there's so much more to me than that.
No, that's kind of about it. I kind of he didn't like mention you per se too much. It was just more about some of the work he's done and things like that. The reason I know more about you is because I've been listening to the Science Faction podcast, and I've enjoyed the work you guys do over there. It's
cool. Well,
really
thanks.
fun to listen.
I basically just assume nobody is listening, so.
Feels like that sometimes.
I'm not an entertainer of any sort. Like that's not one of. I don't feel like being a podcaster or any kind of entertainer is in my skill set. So I just assume nobody's listening, and I just talk to a friend on the podcast, and that's kind of my approach to it. So I'm glad somebody's listening.
I am, but now you got to remember that I am listening to you guys.
Yeah.
At every moment. But no, that I think that's why one of the things I do enjoy about your show is this kind of casual conversation, because even though it I don't know, maybe for some people it can be off-putting because it to some they want a kind of more formulaic style of podcast, but the podcasts I personally listen to have this kind of like friendship level of conversation to them.
I think it's kind of like a difference between kind of a talk radio aspect of it and more of like an audiobook aspect. Because I know some people listen to podcasts and they want just information and they don't like the more casual conversation. Because I listen to Stuff You Should Know, which is very information heavy, but you listen to it and you're entertained by it because they're two interesting guys who kind of go off on tangents, and they get emails of like, oh, why don't you guys stick to the topic? But if you want that, then listen to an audiobook about the topic you want. Don't listen to a podcast. So I think the reason podcasts and talk radio are interesting is because you get the information, but you get to, listen to the hosts you like and get to know them as people. So, yeah.
No, I think you put that correctly. That's kind of that's kind of why I listen to you guys. Just that.
Well, and so you do a podcast with Steven, right? You guys are on the Save Point podcast?
Yes. Basically that's kind of one of the reasons I reached out, and how I got your contact information was, means even it's almost been 6 months now. Yeah, it's almost been 6 months. Wow. That we've been doing that. And yeah, it's like because he was on my show a while back, so anyone wants to listen to that, you can. It's in the archives. But he did talk a little bit about you during that, so that's another reason I know a little bit more about you too, is our discussion.
Well, and I haven't listened to that episode, so maybe he told you some things that I don't know about me, so that could be interesting.
No, but for the most part, I know that you guys have been friends for a very long time. And you guys have done a lot together, and that's kind of that's cool. That's wonderful in this day and age with friendship being so digitized. I think that's a good way to say it. But you guys have done your best to like do stuff together a lot more closer.
Yeah. Yeah. On the podcast, because we don't live in the same city. I mean, we're only about 3 hours away from each other, so we do see each other maybe once every few months. But the podcast helps us like stay in contact on a weekly basis, which is nice.
Now, yeah, you're a pretty busy person as well, from what I hear on the science faction podcast. Yeah, your work puts you like a heavy toll for the most part, but you do some interesting work for the most. If you don't mind talking about that a little bit.
I'm an attorney, so I have to appear in court. It's workers' compensation, so it's called the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board, but it's an administrative law thing. But I have to appear in different places around California on a regular basis, so I drive a lot. So it takes a lot of time. I have to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning to drive to Stockton or Sacramento or any places that are hours away from where I live to appear, and so it's pretty tiring. But so that's my job, and it can be somewhat demanding, but it's you get used to it, like anything. Then I do the podcast. I do the podcast on a weekly basis, Steven and I. And then, because not only do we record the podcast, but like I said, we own the BS Podcast Network, so that requires some work on a daily basis of posting podcasts and keeping in touch with people. So it's kind of like a second job business type thing. And other than that, I have a wife and I have a kid who's 14 months old. So there's, that's a big demand of taking care of a kid. So, which I love. I'm not complaining about it at all. But so a lot going on, which is great. I mean, that's life. That's awesome.
Wow. No, that's a lot to take in for any individual.
And I've kind of added more to it lately. I've always been into. I mean, this is kind of a tangent, or more my current hobby. I've always been into music, and I learned about music theory when I was in junior high, and I played guitar. But now lately, I've decided to get back into it, so I've been learning to play piano and getting back into music theory. So I try to practice an hour a day. So I've also put that on top of everything.
Anyway. Staying busy every little bit you can.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That honestly, like me trying to comprehend that situation is a little bit hard, but probably some of my listeners actually might understand some of those things. Surprisingly, a lot are somewhere in the same space you are, starting families. So I actually recently talked to a lot of audio professionals, and I just got done talking with someone about music theory, so I have a brief understanding of it. But music is something that I've tried to get into. From an outside perspective, I just enjoy the music now. But I've had my foot in trying to learn more than I could. I don't know how to best.
I wouldn't say more than you could. Do you play an instrument or anything? What's your approach?
So, I was reasonably decent on a piano / keyboard. I know people try to separate them, but they're technically the same thing. I used to play the xylophone, which is interesting in its own right, but same. Yeah. Used to be moderate on the trumpet.
Okay, well, you probably know more than I do.
Okay, then I'll take the little compliments I can. But the reason I'm saying that is it was more recently I was trying to learn to play the guitar, and that was my try. But it's time has escaped me with a lot of the stuff around me, and I think you can kind of get that.
Yeah, so the first instrument I learned to play was guitar, and I started in junior high, and that was when I was getting into heavy metal, like Metallica, Pantera, Iron Maiden, and that was obviously, like most popular music, guitar is like the primary instrument, so I really wanted to play that, and I got pretty good at it. And then I was taking lessons, and my guitar teacher, was teaching me theory. I was doing workbooks and stuff. And then for a few years I was learning that, but then I kind of just basically once you get into tablature, it's like, okay, well, I can just play guitar by looking at these numbers and knowing which string and which fret to play. I don't need to really know about how to read music and all that stuff. So I kind of got into that and just played a bunch of metal for years and years. And Steven and I were in a band in high school.
Yes,
And
he glossed over that a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, and I kind of tried to bring what I knew about music theory into, because I wrote I wrote all the guitar parts and tried to make it sound as musically coherent as possible. And then in college, I wasn't really in a band. I would just play guitar on my own. And then law school, strangely enough, I actually hooked up with a drummer who was as dedicated as I was, and we would practice 2 times a week for years. Like, we had a whole repertoire of songs him and I knew. And we got a bassist at one point who was okay, but like I kind of play more technical kind of metal, and so he was more just like, oh, I'll just groove on whatever you do. I'm like, well, no, I need you to play exactly what I play. But and then we never really got a singer. But so we did that. So throughout law school, I was doing that and writing a lot of songs. And then since I after law school and the 10 years. I guess, when did I graduate? 2008. So yeah, 10, 11 years since, I haven't done a whole lot with music. And in the last few months, I was just kind of like, that's an area of knowledge I've always been interested in. I still like heavy metal, but I figured learning the piano or keyboard would be a more direct way of learning music theory. And I don't know, it's a more, I feel like every musician, no matter what instrument they play, like they know piano, like that's like the foundation. And so I decided I would learn to play that and get more into learning theory, like, going through like workbooks, and I listen to podcasts and stuff, like really, really get like a firm foundation of what that is. And I don't know where I'm going to go from there. Like if I'm going to, get into more bands or just try to like write my own music or something. But so that's kind of my history with that.
Okay.
But yeah, you said you played piano, you played trumpet. Like, was that like, when was that? Was that more like in high school kind of thing, or?
I would say middle school / high school. So, like, my during my middle school days, my uncle was like the head of the church music, like the music director. That's the word I'm looking for. He was the music director for a church. So, like, we were I'm gonna say the word forced at this point right now.
Yeah.
To go take practice every week, once a week, to learn the piano and / the xylophone and all that. Sit there and do our keys. I think I underappreciated at that point, because it's like I was like 8, 9-year-olds. I don't want to be playing the piano. I want to be playing games, watching cartoons. But no, I was sitting there just playing the piano for 3 hours a week.
So that's funny. Like my parents divorced when I was very young, and my mom was always working, so I was like basically raised by a single mother. I never was really pushed into any particular thing. So like I never took like piano lessons when I was a kid, which I know is like a common thing, which can either push a kid to hate music, unfortunately, or might push them to like it and become like a professional musician, but probably more likely push them to hate it. So I never had that experience. I was always just kind of like, oh, whatever you want to do, just do whatever you want to do. So when I'm 35, I finally am like, oh, you know what, I feel like I should know more about the foundation of classical music, so maybe I should get into that. So yeah, so it's funny. Like, I don't know what I'm going to push my kid to do. I don't want to push him into things that he's going to hate, like, sports, music, karate, gymnastics, or whatever. But it's such a funny balance to try to expose kids to certain things, but also not force them so much that they're just going to hate it. So, yeah. But I was I just was like, my parents didn't have time to do anything with me, so I kind of just figured out everything on my own. So, It's kind of funny that
Okay.
way. So you said you started playing guitar recently. Like how long ago did you pick up a guitar?
Um. So technically I picked up the guitar about 3 years ago. Like, I actually bought it and decided I wanted to do it. It's been sitting in the corner of my room collecting dust for about a year and a half now, or 2 years. Oh, a year and a
Electric
half.
guitar? Oh, sorry. Electric
Sorry.
guitar? Electric guitar or acoustic?
Electric. Yeah. Yes, electric.
What kind of music do you listen to?
Uh, overall, I listen to just about anything except country music. So, you know, like most types of rock music, pop, electronic, rap, just about anything that will catch my ear. I'll say that. Like, I'm a big fan of music tracks compared to artists and individuals. It's more the actual song.
Hmm. Okay. Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, I would just say pick up the guitar again and just, mess around with something. Um,
I can
I
actually
mean,
tell you why. I can tell you actually why one of the reasons I picked up the guitar.
okay, yeah.
So one of the reasons I pick up the guitar is one of my buddies is in a band, and they've been doing that whole thing. They have the whole thing, the guitar, bass, drummer, all that. And I got a chance to watch one of their practices, and like, it was one of the first times I kind of like saw a live practice. I think that's the best way to put it.
Hmm.
And like, at this point in my life, I was starting to appreciate music a little bit more. I wasn't fond of music during I'm gonna say middle school, early high school. It was just noise to me. I didn't find it enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing to say, but I just didn't like music at that point, or at least like music from bands slash artists. Like, anything instrumental or movie music, that was fine, but anything put out by someone, it was garbage to me at that point.
Okay.
Uh, I know it's odd to hear, but there's a point. Uh, it was during the whole Guitar Hero phase, when everyone was playing with
Mhm.
those plastic guitars. Like, I started to appreciate music a little bit more, and that's when I started getting heavy into like the whole diverse rock genre, for everything from classical to heavy. Uh, just about, I just dove into that just because I was playing that.
Mhm.
And it's when I went to see my buddy's band practice, and that's when I want to try that. I want to, like, well, the first thing is I wanted to try drums, but drums are expensive, so guitar was the best thing.
That's that's kind of how I did too. Like when I was in junior high, I wanted to started listening to heavy metal. I'm like, oh man, drums are awesome, but it's it's expensive, takes up a lot of space, is very loud. So it's like, well, guitar is more reasonable. I think that's why a lot of guitarists play guitars, because it's more convenient than playing drums. But so that makes sense. So did you played for a little while and then you haven't picked it up in a year and a half? Do you just get frustrated or what?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Well, you said you haven't picked up your guitar. You said you picked up guitar 3 years ago and then haven't played it in like a year. Like, did you just get kind of frustrated, or why did you not keep playing it, or time?
So, well, I think a little over time I just lost interest.
Hmm.
I just kind of, it was like a fleeting thought. Little by little, I stopped. I told myself an hour of practice every other day for the most part. Like,
Hmm.
if I knew if I said an hour practice every day, that was not going to happen. So an every other day thing was working for about, I'm gonna say, a little over a month. It was like I was genuinely practicing for an hour every other day, and then that every other day turned to every other day, and then that, and then continuing like every other month, and then it just sat in the corner collecting dust.
I hear
But
that, but
sorry.
yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that, but Yeah, I guess
It's
that
not
happens.
like it's not that I don't want to. I still want to. It's not like it's there. It's literally staring at me. I'm looking at it right now. It's not like it's impossible for me to do it. It's just something that I think for me, I just want. I don't want to force myself into that. I want to just feel that kind of the little level of inspiration again to like. I want to pick up the guitar and try playing something again. I
Yeah.
think that's really the only thing holding me back. With me just been right at this moment, I've just been busy with all the podcasts I've been working and all the YouTube and Twitch shenanigans. So yeah, that's kind of my life at the moment.
Mhm. So you're on this podcast. You have your own podcast. This podcast. You're on the Save Point podcast. Are you doing other podcasts, or these are the two you do, or?
So I produce two. I do this one, the convoluted one. I do one called Reaction Cast. Reaction Cast is an episodic television slash movie slash anime one where I just talk about TV shows. Like I talk about every episode individually, my thoughts and reactions, what I liked and what I disliked about it,
Hmm.
and then yeah, and then the save points. So I'm in total on three different podcasts.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, and I do the work for two of them. So it's it keeps me busy, but it's something that I like I said, I this is something I'm enjoying doing, so that's why I keep doing it. So let's get back onto you. This episode's all about you.
Okay.
it's it seems more like about me, which I don't mind that, but people come to hear my guests.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
um, so this is an interesting question actually that I ask a lot of people in your like current state of life. Uh, you recently, for the most part, recently just became a father. What are some of the what are something you've just realized after having your child that hmm, damn it, I had the proper statement, but I can't remember. What's something that you noticed has changed in your life besides the actual bundle of joy that's changed in your life?
Um. So I feel so. First of all, I feel like I'm a pretty analytical person. So there was a lot of stuff that happens, but I was kind of prepared for it because I could assume what was going to happen, and hear what other people said, and read books and be like, okay, when you have a kid, your life is about that kid. So everything you do has to make sure that they're included, that they're accounted for, that they're taken care of. When you work, you can no longer think of your job as like, well, if I got fired, screw it, I'll just go work on a boat in the middle of the Pacific someday and screw life. But no, everything is important now. Everything you do has to take them into account. So there's all that stuff. So your life, has more, I don't know, meaning, but more importance because it's not about you, it's about them. So there's that. There's the fun part of, you have a kid, they're fun to play with, but it can be frustrating. Um, they're very temperamental, which is part of. Again, these are all things that you've heard. Like even if you don't have a kid, you've heard all the different things, the highs, the lows, and they're all true. Like I've had like Nolan, my son, will have times where he's just like cracking up, he's laughing, he's having fun, and we're playing. And then there'll be times where every little thing, like just the smallest thing, will set him off, and they'll start bawling. And it's like, I can't help you because you shouldn't be crying over this little thing. It's not a big deal. So how that affects me is just trying to understand that it's all part of the process, that you have to kind of go with the bad parts, like the crying and the tough parts, And it's never going to stop. I mean, every stage in life there's pros and cons. Like, eventually he'll be talking, which will be awesome, and we'll be doing things more complex, playing games and things, but there'll be other hassles that come with that, being bullied at school and troubles with certain stuff. But I don't know, I've just kind of always been looking forward to it and kind of mentally prepared for it, so I enjoy it for the most part. um and it happens that I'm frustrated and kind of like, okay, this is too much. I really just want to check out and do my own thing, but I try to keep those times as minimal as possible, because I always try to remind myself, like, everything is about him. Like, it's even if I'm want to do my own thing, and like just just hanging out with him. I'm trying to think of examples. It's easy to like look at your phone, or if you're watching TV, which I know you shouldn't do so much when the kids are around, because you don't want them to have so much screen time, and you want to do your own thing. You want to look at your phone, play a game, look at your email, look at Facebook, or if the TV's on, you want to put your own thing on. I listen to a lot of like late night monologue kind of stuff, because I don't watch it live. I watch it on YouTube later. But that's detracting from what he's from him. Like, he could be occupying himself, but it still doesn't feel right. It's like, I'm doing my own thing and neglecting him. So I try to I still do that, because it's going to happen inevitably. And you're going to, you get home from work and you're like, I want to relax. I just spent 9 hours dealing with shitty clients and shitty attorneys and everything. I don't want to then deal with a kid who wants to demand all my time. But you try to remember, like, but that's what's important. That's why you're doing all this. So it's really just a mind state, like, just realizing, like, your job, the more important job you have in life is taking care of them, not your stupid job in the office. So but it takes mental discipline, and it takes time, and there's going to be times when you're frustrated and don't be the best you can be, because you're like, look, I really need to answer this email on my phone, and even though you're crying and want this, like, I need to answer this stupid client who asked me a dumb question that I've already answered 20 times. Like, that's life. But that's the best I can describe it. But everybody asks me, like, well, what's the one thing you didn't think was going to happen, or what's the one thing you're surprised about? I'm like, there's nothing. Like, we people have been having kids for thousands of years. There's nothing that like comes up like, oh, I didn't realize they had 6 tentacles that came out of their back, and like, no, there's nothing new. It's just realizing, like, accepting what you've already heard and trying to deal with it. So yeah, and we're eventually we're gonna hopefully have 2 kids. And I mean, that's going to be crazy. Like, I've had friends say, which makes sense, it's like when you have 2 kids, it's not double the work. It's like, it's almost a synergistic effect where it's even more than you would expect. Like, it's not just twice as hard, it's 3 times as hard. And I can see that. Like, it's hard enough, dealing with my son, who I've discussed. When we have another kid who's going to be a newborn, and he's going to be like 2 or 3, like, we're going to have to deal with his issues as a 2 or 3-year-old, which we've never dealt with before, and deal with a new kid who's going through the same stuff that we dealt with when, he was a newborn. And there's going to be, a feedback loop. Like, we can't have them, like, financial issues, but say they're in the same bedroom, like one, I think is what Steven does. I don't know how he does it, but have a newborn, or not a newborn, but like within a year old, and like have like a 3 or 4-year-old, like, they're gonna wake up at different times. They're gonna have different needs, and when one wakes up, they're gonna wake the other one up. So it's gonna be even harder then. But it's all stuff that is you can anticipate and expect and try to be prepared for. But it's still gonna be really hard. Like, there's no way around it. It's gonna be tough. So but it's all so far still worth it. I love my son, of course, and I love him more than anything in the world, and I can't wait for him to do other new things in his life and be there for him and have fun and do all these things. So it's just part of life. I mean, it's all the same stuff. It's like I said, it's been happening for thousands of years. So all the stuff I'm saying is like, yeah, everybody before in the past has dealt with it, or else we wouldn't be here. So that's just life.
Okay. No, thank you for honestly, thank you for sharing that, because one of the reasons I asked this mostly, like I asked this to Steven as well, because that was right around the time he recently had his second child. Yeah, just around that time. The reason I asked this is, like I said, I've been listening to you guys a little bit, so you can get a little glimpse of some people sometimes, because you guys share some of your lives on your show a little bit. But is to kind of get an idea of someone's mindset, like you, who you were prior to having child is I'm not gonna say completely different, but has like evolved now that you are, for the most part, are a parent. Yeah. I like, sadly, I know, like, I don't want to say bad parents, and neglectful is a terrible term. What's the nicest way to say that?
Not neglectful, but passive, checked out. I don't know. Not engaged.
Let's go with passive then. Yeah. I know a lot of passive parents, and it's kind of disheartening sometimes, just kind of seeing how.
Sorry. What's up? I don't know if you just heard that loud noise outside our window.
No, I just heard you saying "whoa."
Oh, so you didn't hear that? Okay, never mind. There was a very loud noise outside our window, because our windows are open because we're letting our carpets dry, because we just got our carpets cleaned, which we talked about before the podcast. So, anyway.
So no, like I said, thoughts, passive parents, yes. The reason I asked is because I know a lot of passive parents. I think I'll start using that term. It's nicer. The way when I see them interact with their children, like when they come around, is it's a little bit disheartening. Maybe when thinking back of my own childhood, because you want to enjoy spending time with your parents as much as you want to spend time with your parents, but you enjoy those moments. And when there's probably times, I don't know how to put this without sounding like a dick. I'm gonna just roll it back, and I'm gonna keep this in, so no editing, so anyone out there can just at me and hate me. But one of the reasons I do ask is just to get kind of a general mindscape of the person I'm talking with, and where they're at, kind of. Because for the most part, you already have a general idea. You have a general idea of what you want and are trying to do to the best of your ability, and it can get frustrating at times, but you're willing to do that and push forward. And that's kind of all I wanted to say. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't say that. So,
yeah, I guess I'm thinking, like, what's my experience with bad parenting? You get like examples of it from movies where the point is they're bad parents, and that leads to character development for the character who is the child of the bad parent. And so that's my like approach to it. Like most things is TV and movie, like how do other people live? Then I realized, like, well, my parents were divorced when I was very young. My dad was a complete loser, burnout junkie. My mom was trying to be a single mother. She also had issues with alcoholism, and she wasn't there for me when I was, for certain parts of my childhood, which is fine. It worked out fine. So I do have some experience with actual bad, subpar parents. But I feel like our generation now, whatever the cause of it is, the consensus is we're all pretty good parents, at least with my friends. I mean, there's plenty of different people out there still and do different things, but like our approach is almost like learning from our more hands-off parents to being better. And which, I mean, I guess it's kind of a cyclical thing, like the philosophy of, well, you should let your kids be more free and let them learn on their own and do whatever. And then then it goes back to, well, you should guide them. And we're in the stage where we give them too much stuff to do, where they have all kinds of extracurricular, whatever it is, extra activities, and then they don't have enough time to kind of learn and imagine and fill their own time. So it goes back and forth, but I feel like at least all the people I know, me, Steven, I have plenty of other friends now who have kids, because I'm just at that point in my life where that's kind of where we're all at. We all seem to be doing a pretty good job, at least from what I've understand to be competent parenting. It just seems like maybe the past generations are just different. I don't know. I had shitty parents. I don't know. I'm lucky I turned out the way I did.
Hey, that's all you can say for yourself at that point, right? At least you made it out and are here. So, more power to you on them. There's one topic I wanna get into. You're an attorney. Is that the right word?
I'm an attorney.
Yeah. So why do you get into that field?
So I went into college as an aerospace engineering major, which kind of feeds into the whole science and science fiction thing. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a very unengaged student in high school. So I really just got by. Like I was the kind of student who would not study, not do the homework, and would just wing it. And luckily, I was half intelligent enough to do okay, or at least be able to cram before a test and do okay. So did not have like a direction in life by the end of high school. I mean, by the end of high school, I was in a band with Steven. And I was just, ditching class and doing whatever, but still understanding what was required of me and doing enough to pass classes and things. And I got into a couple colleges I had applied for. I had actually enlisted in the Air Force at the end of end of high school as well, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, well, what? I'm just gonna do all my options. So I'd gone through the enlistment process, talking to a recruiter, and they even sent me to the enlistment center where I had to go through all these tests and stuff. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I was accepted to a number of colleges. I could go to the Air Force. I had a date to go to basic training. And I chose to go to college. I went to a college that was nearby where I grew up. And even the Air Force recruiter, his boss came to me and was like, hey, I thought you were joining the Air Force. And I'm like, well, no, I decided to go to college. And he tried to convince me college was a bad idea. But he also, and this is kind of a side story, but I grew up in Santa Maria, California, which is 45 minutes from Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is a main place where we launch rockets that send satellites into orbit. And so it was a pretty cool Air Force base. I'd gone there for air shows and stuff. So he, in trying to convince me to stay with the Air Force, picked me up. This was during the summer between my last year of high school and my first year of college. Picked me up and took me on a personal tour of Vandenberg Air Force Base. And it was awesome. I'm like, I got to see all this cool stuff. I'm like, thank you very much. This was awesome. I'm not going to join the Air Force, but I am very much like that. I got this full day tour of an Air Force base from the behind the scenes. But So I did that. But so I ended up going to Cal Poly, which was in San Luis Obispo, near where I grew up. And I majored in aerospace engineering, which I had almost picked at random when I applied. And just once I got there, I took classes. I took, all the basic classes you have to take other than your major classes. And I was like, I've always been interested in politics and law and more of the humanities and social type of things. And decided that political science would be something I would be more successful at. So I changed majors to that. I did pre-law actually as my concentration for political science, because I was at least smart enough to think like, well, political science isn't a real thing. You can't get a job in it except for like the few people who work for politicians, and that's like a small percentage of people who actually graduate with political science degrees. The vast majority of them are really just waiters. So I decided, well, I'll have to go to law school after this if I really want to make this degree be worth something. And so I did that. I went to law school. In law school, I decided that what I thought was the most interesting was constitutional law, which I thought the most practical way of applying that would be criminal law, because criminal law really applies the Bill of Rights, civil liberties directly. And so I did do actually a lot of criminal law internships. I worked at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office during law school, and then I worked at the Santa Maria Public Defender's Office after law school. But I didn't really find a lot of jobs in it because of the time. This was around 2008 when the economy crashed, and these are all government jobs, and so the government didn't have a lot of money to spend on hiring new public defenders. So I did apply. Man, I went to a ton of interviews around that time, but I eventually got a job as in workers' compensation, which is like the opposite of criminal law. My girlfriend at the time got a job at the firm I work at now, which is workers' compensation defense firm. So we represent the employer and the insurance company. I first got a job actually working for the injured worker, which is fine. I'm actually okay with that idea. But the firm I worked at was the worst place in the world. And then she got a job at the defense firm, and she eventually got me a job there. And now I still have a job there. She still has a job there, not the same location, totally different locations. We don't, obviously we're not together anymore. I have a totally different wife. And she still works there. She's a partner there actually. And I work at a different location, and I'm still an associate, which is fine because I don't have any ambitions of being a partner. But that's kind of how I fell into where I'm at now. But being a lawyer, I guess, goes back to the political science aspect of it. I viewed. You not hear that, really?
I hear a vibrating.
Okay,
just barely. I just barely heard a vibrating right now.
I don't live on a busy street. I have no idea what that is. That's really annoying. Like, that's completely...
I thought it might just been your phone for a moment.
No, that was like a motorcycle outside. But
okay.
So so when I got into political science, I figured being a lawyer was like the ultimate. I wish I had a good way of describing it. I have a very bad way of describing it. It's like being the Jedi of political science. It's like being the most knowledgeable. The foundation of politics, like being a lawyer. Like every politician is a lawyer, not every politician, but most politicians, and that could be a good or bad thing. But if you're into politics, you're into government, you're into the Constitution, you're into whatever statutes, laws, regulations, whatever, you have to be a lawyer. You have to know like why these all exist, what the relationship is to each other, how you argue them, how it all works. Like being a lawyer, if you're into that area of academia or whatever it is, that's what it is, being a lawyer. Like you have to go that extra step. So that's what I figured. I was like, well, I have to be a lawyer if I want to know everything about constitutional law, everything about how the government works, everything about what policies are the most logical and make the most sense, or anything. Like being a lawyer is the ultimate application of that. So that's why I became a lawyer. Not necessarily to be the lawyer I am today. I don't give a crap about workers' compensation law, but it pays the bills, and that's the job I got, so I have to do it. But that's where I ended up. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's 90% of people out there. It's not like they're doing their dream job.
No, and thank you for explaining that, because a lot of people, I talk to, kind of get where they're at the moment, just like step by step. You mentioned that you still didn't know right after high school what you wanted to do, and a lot of people don't. Like that. That's something that's way more common now, more like, why can't I speak? More so, there we go. More so because the way student debt is at the moment. That's going to be my question coming up in a little bit. But it's hard now to kind of take that into consideration. Now on top of that, with the whole scandal, the whole
yeah, college scandal. Yeah,
that was baffling. Like, it's for me, it's something that I thought was already happening. You know, like rich people just paying off people. That's kind of the thing. Like, oh, it's happening. But to have it like solidified and it's real, like, oh, okay.
For it to be so blatant, where it's like paying a particular person $500,000 and lying about, like, oh yeah, they're on the sailing team. They've never been on a boat in their life, but yeah, they're a professional sailor. Like, that's rowing or whatever, lacrosse. It's it's ridiculous. It just what I've heard, I listened to a particular show, I've mentioned it on our podcast, Armstrong and Getty in the Morning, and their take on it is it's probably more of a thing where obviously this has been happening forever. It's gonna happen forever. But when they get so lazy and blatant about it, the authorities have to step in and be like, okay, you know, we have to make a showing that we're regulating this and you know, prosecuting people who violate this, because you're so goddamn lazy about it. Like, you're photoshopping your kid's face onto a professional athlete's body. Like, this is just ridiculous. Like, at least give some effort into doing this. Like, try to make it something we can't easily discover. So, but it's going to keep happening. I mean, the rich are still going to like dominate the Ivy League. They're still going to get their kids into whatever school they want to get them into. But yeah, I mean, we've got to try to, I guess, you know, slow them down a little bit. It's ridiculous.
No, it is ridiculous. It's just the joke is, for the most part, not over, but it has less of a punch now that it's real for the most part.
Yeah.
But continuing on, like like you are where you are because of some of the steps you took, and hopefully you'll find something in the near future where you'll be doing something you'll enjoy, because hopefully that's all we want in our lives. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. Just staring at that cat poster next to me.
Well, what do you do? Like, I'm sorry, I don't know much about you. What's your job?
Oh, I'm currently my current job, like my actual paying job, is why can't I talk? I stock shelves at night. That's what I do.
Like for a particular company or store, or
you're in California, okay. At Safeway.
Okay, yeah. Safeway is one of my clients. Okay, yeah, that's a job.
It's like I said, it's a job. It pays, but it pays the bills. It's paying my current new mortgage. You know, the new life drain of me.
You have a mortgage, so you own a house. That's great if you were in California, but yeah.
No, I've talked to Steve about this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cost of living. It's a topic I've dove in. It's been a hot topic on my show. It
Yeah.
is a hot topic on my show now because of how frequent I talk about it. And it's like I said, it is a real topic to talk about because it's us trying to survive in this world for the most
Yeah.
part.
I
So
mean, my wife and I have talked about moving to another state, likely Texas, because we have family and friends there. And I just know 5, 10 years from now, when we finally do it, we're going to be like, why the hell didn't we do this sooner? Because we are going to be living in a nice big house for literally half or less of what we pay now, with jobs that we like probably about the same as we like our jobs now, which is whatever. But and we're gonna be like, why didn't we do this sooner? Because California is stupid. Like, not stupid in like an intellectual way, but it's stupid in just like it costs an insane amount of money to live here. Yeah, we have a lot of great things. The environment's great. The all this different options we have and stuff. And of course, I live in Silicon Valley, so there's just tons of tech here, and that's why it's particularly why where I live is so expensive. But I'm not in tech, so why do I live in a place where it costs me 10 times as much to live when I could be doing the same job somewhere else and living way more comfortably? So I'm sure in 10 years when we finally have made that move, we're just going to be like, oh man, this is awesome. My dream, I mean, getting back to like, if you want to know more about me and the
yeah,
musical
go
thing,
for it. Share your
is
dreams.
like we live in a 2-bedroom condo right now. We're going to move soon into a 3-bedroom house with a nice yard, which is awesome. We have a very lucky situation with that because it's some friends of ours who are moving to Colorado because the same thing. They're like, screw this, it's too expensive. They're buying an awesome house in Colorado because they have tons of money. And they are going to rent out their house here in San Jose to us for a reduced price. So we'll have a 3-bedroom house with a nice yard, which is awesome. But we live in a 2-bedroom condo right now. And for what we pay for this condo and what we're going to pay for that 3-bedroom house, literally we could have a 5 or 6-bedroom house, like mansion anywhere else in the country, except for the East Coast, probably. All that stuff. So my dream is to just have like a big house where we've got, a room for my son, a room for his brother or sister, a nice master bedroom. And like every guy, I want a man cave. And like, and not only do I want it to have, a big screen TV and a bunch of awesome stuff, a keg, and, watch sports or whatever, but I also want, for me particularly, especially with my new renewed interest in music, is some kind of area where I can have like, all my musical instruments and even possibly like a recording type setup where I can do whatever I want. I want to have like drums, guitar, keyboard, bass, any other instruments. Like, it's not that impossible. It's not. It sounds crazy to me right now because I live in a world where it's so damn expensive to do anything. But in like the majority of the country, there's so much space available. There are big houses for literally a fifth of what I pay for my 2-bedroom condo. Literally. I'm not using literally figuratively. I'm using it literally. And once we move to those places in our country, our whole lives will like open up to all these possibilities. It's so insane. So yeah, that's
No, and I
my
totally
10th
get it.
rant.
Like I said,
Yeah.
this is a hot topic here, and I get the gist of it. I've seen the numbers, and it's baffling, and you're right. To acquire like this dream, it takes a good amount of money. Like, it's possible, but it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah. The people
And
I
that's
know
kind
around this, yeah, the people I know around this area who have nice big houses are the people who work like for like Google and Facebook, and even then they work like long hours and still are like using most of their money for their living expenses. It's not sustainable. I don't know. It's just California's crazy, and man, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, tomorrow I just want to move out of the state, but it's not going to happen for a while.
just not yet.
Where in California, if you don't mind me asking, where in California do you live? Or it might not be California. All I know about you is you live in the same time zone as I do. So it could be Oregon or Washington, or Canada. But where do you live, if you don't
I'm
mind
up in
saying?
Oregon. No,
Okay.
I'm up in Oregon. A few hours out of Portland.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I am actually pretty familiar with Oregon. I have family in Medford, and my mom lives in Portland. So, and we go to Bend a lot for Christmas, like to go to Bachelor for skiing and stuff. So
okay,
awesome.
okay.
Yeah, Oregon's nice.
No, it is. I'm originally from Chicago, so
Okay.
I lived like the ghetto city life. Now I'm like in suburbia, so it's kind of weird, but it's nicer slash safer. So it's I don't have to go to bed with gunfire in the background, so I'm happy.
That's good. Yeah.
So, and audience, that's not a joke. That actually happens. But no, yeah. Um, shoot.
And I lived in the Tenderloin of San Francisco for my first 2 years of law schoal, and I heard
The
every night.
Tenderloins.
Yeah, every night was gunfire and sirens and everything. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I know where that is too. A buddy of mine, a guest and a friend of the show. He's actually not too far from that area at the moment, but he's talked about it extensively, and yeah, that's not. I get the gist of that area.
Yeah.
So wow, okay, interesting, huh? So
The way I kind of ended up there was when I was looking for places to live. When I was planning on going to law school, I didn't know anything about San Francisco, so I kind of just like looking at random places around San Francisco and found an apartment that kind of made sense. It was close to the school, but I had no idea what the Tenderloin was, and so ended up there.
you learn quick.
Yeah, the very first night when I was trying to sleep and there was just like screaming and gunfire and sirens, I'm like, holy crap. But also, interestingly, I got used to it so disturbingly quickly. And then when I finally moved out of there, I was like, holy crap, there's no noise at night.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird when I don't know. I have to sleep with white noise in the background. I don't know if that's just from habit now, but yeah.
Yeah, I have to have an audio track of just like screaming and machine gun fire.
Okay, so let's get into a few little fun topics before we close the show.
Okay.
You guys talk a lot about science and science fiction. From what I can tell, you're a big like Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm. Star Wars and Star Trek both.
Yes. Here's an opinion I wanted to get from you. So, in your opinion, how would you rank the current Star Wars films, including some of the spin-offs? In
Also, basically all the Star Wars films.
yes.
I would put Empire at the top, which I think is kind of the universal opinion. I would put A New Hope second, Return of the Jedi third, which is it was kind of funny. It wasn't until like really later that I realized Return of the Jedi was considered like the crappy of the original trilogy. Because to me, as a kid, I was like, "Oh, Return of the Jedi is my favorite." Like, it's got. I mean, I wasn't a particularly big fan of the Ewoks. I didn't hate the Ewoks, but the whole battle over the second Death Star was awesome. The what do they even call it? They don't call it a trench run, but the flight into the center of the Death Star and everything, and the battle on the moon of Endor. Like, I thought it was awesome. So I still like Return of the Jedi, even though I've only recently learned that people consider it not the best of the original trilogy. But anyway, so I would put Empire, New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and then when we start getting into the rest of the movies, I don't know what it is. I really liked Rogue One. I know, like, it really lacked character development. I get that, but it had like the feeling of, well, okay, so it had the feeling of the original trilogy in style and pace, and then in the final like whole battle sequence above, man, I can't remember the name of the planet, but like it felt like it fit in with the original trilogy somewhat, like the most, more than any of the other new movies. So I would put that fourth. And I enjoyed it. I was excited, like in the theater, watching that third act of like the like I said, like the fight, the fight in space, the fight on the ground, like everything. I felt like it fit in with Star Wars, so I would put that fourth. Then then we get into the prequels, the new ones, and Solo. It's hard. I've said this on Science Faction. I have a really weird soft spot for Attack of the Clones. I saw it. That's the movie of all the Star Wars movies, because wasn't alive when the originals came out. That's the one I've seen the most in theaters. When it came out in theaters, for some reason, I saw it a few times. I don't know what it was about it, because I know that it's actually considered one of the worst, other than the Phantom Menace. But I, for some reason, really liked Attack of the Clones. But okay, so man, Rogue One. I'm just so disappointed with the new movies. They're better than the prequels in execution. Like they feel more like they belong in the Star Wars universe. But they're just so like. The Force Awakens was so boring. Like the first time I saw it, I literally in the middle of the movie was like, I don't care what's happening. Like this is A New Hope, but worse. And yes, there's some exciting. It has like the characters are interesting-ish. The comedy is great. I love seeing the Falcon again, like everybody. But like specifically when they go to Maz Katana, her bar, castle, whatever, and it's just a recreation of the Mos Eisley's Cantina, I'm like, I'm literally not interested in where this story is going. And so yeah, there's that. So it's hard to place those movies in with the prequels, because the prequels were so bad on so many levels, but they had original plot lines that at least the plot kept you interested in some sense because it was something different. It's hard to place all those. So I guess I would say, okay, let me just do it without so much discussion. Rogue One. I'll say Rogue One, The Last Jedi, which I keep going back and forth on whether I like it, because it's good in some sense, but it's terrible in others. And then I'll say, because like I said, I have a weird soft spot for Attack of the Clones. I'll say Attack of the Clones. Then I'll say Solo. Then I'll say Revenge of the Sith. Then I'll say Force Awakens. Then I'll say The Phantom Menace. Okay. So there you go. That's it. Yeah. What did I say? An Empire, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One. Oh yeah, The Last Jedi, Clones, and then Solo, Sith, and then Menace. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I stand by that.
There you go. All right, and then we'll see where the third and final part of this new trilogy will end up in your category.
I do not have high hopes.
You know, well, no looking forward to this one?
I mean, not particularly. I mean, J.J. Abrams is back. He has no sense of physics or science, which I know Star Wars is not a science-based series, but his idea, his putting theatrical like spectacle above just any sense of like common sense or physics gets annoying. When you can see a star system destroyed from where you're standing on a planet, and this is supposedly happening light years away, is just ridiculous. He has no idea how space works. Like, literally, he has no idea what a light year is.
That's true. I'm not gonna lie. Not something I don't really think about. It's just movie magic at that point for me.
But that's, yes, movie magic. But when it cares, like, if I remember correctly, in The Force Awakens, Han looks up in the sky and sees the Hosnian Prime system being destroyed. Am I right? Like, that happens, right? Well, because the same thing happens.
Something happens. I don't know the name, so I'm just gonna say yes.
And the same thing happens in his first Star Trek movie. Spock looks up and sees Vulcan destroyed in the sky, and because he's on a planet. Okay, so I'm assuming that planet is in the same solar system as Vulcan. Even then, you would not see, unless you were orbiting on a planet that was orbiting Vulcan, you would not see that happen. It makes absolutely no sense. And
for any listeners, the reason it doesn't make sense because light does not travel that fast.
Oh no, it doesn't. Well, it would be a small point in the sky that you might see like wink out. Like that's it. You would not see an entire planet and see the like what would happen to it. And I could see like, okay, so you're being very nitpicky. That is not being nitpicky unless the moon was destroyed. Say Mars in our own solar system was destroyed by a superweapon. Do you think you would see in the daytime Mars in the sky being destroyed? No, you would have no idea Mars was destroyed. Anyway.
Until someone posted it on Reddit the next day.
Yeah, everybody's putting it on Twitter.
No, you're right. And it'll be interesting. You're right. It's different people put their... Some of the things that I've seen issues with this brand new trilogy, it is this kind of there's a lot. There's a lot that we can probably have our own its own episode to discuss this. And there could be a multiple guesting, but there's a lot of discrepancies, a lot of nitpicking, and even I myself, it's hard. It's hard for me. I'm with you there. There's a lot of things I've nitpicked in that thing.
I'm surprised with Disney because they do such a great job with Marvel. And I know there's a particular guy who's the head of the whole Marvel movie universe, and he's doing a great job at keeping everything consistent and like planning way ahead. That's awesome. I can't believe they didn't do that with Star Wars. They got this huge franchise and they basically gave the first movie to a director who has a good track record, J.J. Abrams. Everybody was like, okay, cool. He's that's awesome. And then they gave the second movie to another, good director, but just let him do whatever he wants. Like there is no consistent story that I can tell. And so then they went back to J.J. Abrams to be like, okay, wow, this guy went in way into left field, so we need you to bring it back. Like, how come you didn't have a plan from the beginning to make a trilogy that made sense? Why did you just give it to random people? Like they were going to give it to Trevor, what's his name, from The Lost World for the third one, and they were going to let him do whatever he wanted. And then when people backlash,
really?
Oh yeah, Trevor.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the guy who directed and wrote The Lost World, not The Lost World, Jurassic World, was supposed to be in charge of episode 9. And
okay.
he then came out with a really bad movie, and they were like, oh, maybe you don't know what you're doing. And so they went back to J.J. Abrams. But seriously, I can't believe they didn't have somebody in charge of the new trilogy to be like, okay, what's the overall story going to be? Three movies, the end of the Skywalker era. We've got all the original people back. What are we going to do? What cool, awesome thing are we going to do with 3 movies in a row that we can tell an awesome, epic story? And they didn't do that. They just they did the improv game of, okay, every person's going to add one sentence to this story in a row, and you're just going to make up whatever it is, and you're going to make it as hard as possible for the next person to add something that's coherent. They did that instead of being like, oh, let's tell a coherent 3-movie story. I can't believe they did that. They paid, $4 billion for Star Wars and then didn't care what the directors did with the movies? Anyway.
Let's hear your real thoughts.
Yeah.
When the next one comes out, I need to bring you back, and we got to talk about it. And there's actually a couple other people that also would love to discuss it. So we'll probably have a group discussion on our either possible, maybe little slimmer of light, like the film. I'm gonna give it that little glimpse that's still sparkling and it's still there. But it's kind of hard at the moment with this track record. We'll see. So, we're coming towards the end of the show. We're gonna have a few quick words right here.
This podcast brought to you by OuchThatHurts.com. Visit Ouch That Hurts for music, gaming, reviews, editorials, podcasts, and more. Ouch That Hurts, HERTZ.com.
Come hang out and chat with everyone on our Discord channel. Be a part of our community.
Okay, and we're back. Thank you, editing, for that. So, at this point, I asked my guests to regale us with a tale in where is something like the weirdest, strangest, most convoluted thing that has ever happened, you have ever done, or you have ever encountered in your life.
Wow, that's pretty tough. I did hear you mention that on the video you sent me, so I'm not completely caught off guard, but that's a tough thing to come up with, because I'm sure if I pick something later, I'll be like, oh yeah, that other thing made way more sense. So basically just an interesting story from my life.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
You can edit out this long pause.
Don't worry, don't worry. This is where editing comes into place.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I don't have anything that's like, I don't know, too profound. Okay, so what kind of stories do other people tell? Like,
just
religious
experiences,
something weird, or
it's. I'm not, to be honest, there's a variety. It's sometimes it's really out there. I'm not gonna lie. I gotten everything from a porno heist to ghost cars to alien abductions. So
okay. So that's all very interesting. I'm a skeptic by nature. And so I don't believe in any of that crap. I don't believe in ghosts. Alien abductions would be cool, but unfortunately I don't think real alien abductions have taken place. Any experiences I have had with those, I will just chalk up to, the flaws with human memory. I think that might be the problem.
I have a thought. Can you? How about regale us on your first day or first week during your time in the Tenderloins? Would that be interesting?
Okay, yeah. So, all right, about the Tenderloin, that's good. So So like I said, I found my apartment because I didn't know anything about San Francisco. Decided to just check out apartments that were convenient from where my hostel was, and I stayed at a hostel in the Tenderloin. So all the apartments I checked out were in the Tenderloin, and this one was the one that made the most sense cost-wise and location to my law school. And so there's that. And then so I took it, and then the first night I was there, oh man, it's just like sirens and screaming and gunshots, and the Tenderloin is crazy. So it is the ghetto, just like the worst part of San Francisco, where all the drug dealers, homeless people, all the crime goes down. When I was working at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office, I would get cases that were, I was in the felony unit, which is higher than the misdemeanor unit, but it was like a lot of drug possession, drug selling things, and all the reports were places that I was familiar with, like all the street locations and street intersections were like, oh yeah, that's a block from where I live. So I knew like the locations and things. So it was pretty bad. And then the apartment itself was a studio apartment, not that bad, riddled with cockroaches, of course, because that just comes with the territory. If you're in a shitty part of town. And so one story from all this, which reminds me of, so like I said, I was in a band in law school, and I didn't have a car. I eventually got a motorcycle because it was the best way to get around San Francisco, but this was before I had a motorcycle. I would take the bus to band practice because we had a studio in Potrero Hill. We would pay rent there. My drummer could keep his drum set there. I could keep my, I didn't keep my guitar there because I wanted it to play at home, but I kept my huge amps and stuff there. So I would take the bus to Potrero Hill twice a week. Wow. Thinking back on that now, the idea that I would spend an hour on the bus to go to band practice twice a week is insane. But and this is before I was like listening to podcasts and stuff. What the hell did I do on that bus? But so one day I was waiting for the bus, and I looked across the street, and there was an old Chinese man, and someone ran up and stole his briefcase or whatever bag he was carrying. And the guy ran into an alley, and then I saw the Chinese guy run after him. And then a few minutes later, I saw the Chinese guy come back with his stuff. And so in my head, I'm like, oh man, that guy just like pulled out some kung fu stuff. Like, like that was a total action movie. Like the guy was like, oh, you're going to take my stuff? I'm going to chase you down and beat the crap out of you. So from my perspective, it was pretty awesome. I did like a few minutes later walk down to like look down the alley, and there were like some like movers or something there. So I'm just assuming like they stopped the guy who took his stuff. But from my perspective, it looked like this old Chinese man chased down his attacker and like, kick the shit out of him. So that's an, mildly interesting story. But yeah, the Tenderloin, I live there. It's crazy. If you go to San Francisco as a tourist, and you go and see, if you go to like any plays there, the Tenderloin kind of overlaps with the theater district. A lot of the theaters are in the Tenderloin. So if you go to Union Square and then you go down Geary Street or O'Farrell, you go to the theaters, but that's in the Tenderloin. So, and Conan O'Brien, actually, he did like a week of shows at the Orpheum, which is in the Tenderloin. And his joke about that was, he's like, oh, we're in San Francisco now. So if you go to, something like to the effect of, you go to Union Square and then walk down, Market Street, a couple blocks. Once you feel like you're going to be stabbed, walk another 5 blocks, and then you'll be at this theater. So that's the Tenderloin.
That sounds about right. That's right from what I get from my buddy, since that's where he performs. He's an actor. So yeah, that sounds right. That's scary, but I know it, and hopefully other people doesn't experience. And if you do, there is a way out. Hopefully. So, Devon, thank you for sharing those times with us.
You're welcome.
All right, so now we're going to get into the game show portion of the podcast.
How much money can I win?
We'll find out.
All right.
So, we're going to start with a pretty hot game. So, you decided to choose 2 games to play. We're going to start with Love Match. Listeners, for anyone out there, Love Match is literally a knockoff of the old TV show Love Match, where I'm going to present Devon with 3 lovely ladies. Each of them have some wonderful positive qualities. There's just this one interesting thing about them that may turn him off. So,
Okay.
so I'm going to present them to you, and you're going to have to tell me why you would choose one over the other. Sound good? Okay. So, let's see here. We're going to start with... Let's see here. Let's start with Olivia. Olivia... Oh, interesting. Okay, so Olivia, there's some interesting facts about Olivia. As long as you're dating her, you'll never have to work while you date them. On top of that, she has the ability to lift Thor's hammer.
Okay.
That is Olivia.
It's funny because that's the name I have for my cock, so that's great.
All right, now let's go with let's see, Jennifer. Let's talk with
Okay.
Jennifer. Jennifer, she's a yoga instructor, and every time you guys have intercourse, she gives you mind-shattering orgasms that leave you sore for days.
Okay.
Alright. If I think that's pronounced Margot. Or Margaret.
Yeah.
Margot? Yeah.
Margo.
Margot. Okay. Margot, from what she has informed us, she lives at Hogwarts. On top of that, their tongue vibrates, and it has 3 modes. Take that as you will.
Okay, so wait, for Olivia, she could lift Thor's hammer. What was the first thing?
As long as you date them, you'll never have to work.
Oh, okay.
So-
And then Jennifer was the yoga instructor, the orgasms, and then Margot was from Hogwarts and had the vibrating tongue. It's kind of an easy one. Olivia, the no working. Thor's hammer doesn't really do a lot for me, except for the fact that, that's what I said. But although, because it basically comes down to the no working versus the orgasms. Are orgasms more important? Those kind of orgasms more important than never having to work again? I think.
So I can see you're going between 2. So I'm gonna now it's time. You're gonna get to know them a little bit more now. You ready? So after talking with them a little bit, you find out. Let's start with Olivia. You find out Olivia, she keeps the severed heads of their exes in a fancy glass display case.
Okay, cool, got it.
Let's see here. Jennifer. What the heck did I just pull? Okay. Jennifer has a, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, a sarlacc pit where their genitals should be.
So a Sarlacc pit, yeah, that's the thing from Return of the Jedi where they were gonna throw everybody, all the main characters into.
So
that really makes it easy. So, interestingly, Jennifer, who will give you earth-shattering orgasms or whatever it was, also has a Sarlacc pit as genitals. This is kind of, well, it kind of makes me wonder about the Sarlacc pit. Maybe it's not as bad as you thought. But I'm gonna go with Olivia because the whole having exes, well, not working. I mean, there's that. Her exes' heads, she cuts them off and displays them. So I know her exes are dead. I mean, is that really a bad thing? I mean, obviously, I might be one of those heads, but yeah, I'll go with Olivia.
No, go ahead. Rationalize as best you can here.
Okay, well, not working is the ultimate, thing in the world. Thor's hammer. Okay, well, we're in a world where we assume Thor exists, so we're basically in the Marvel universe. She can lift Thor's hammer. I mean, that means that there's something very special about her. So she's got some kind of superpowers, or she is like an Asgardian warrior. She's got that going for her, which is interesting with the whole severed head thing, because that means that if she is so powerful, then she definitely has the ability, obviously, drive to kill her exes and decapitate them. So I guess the thing with that is the idea that if I think that if one day we're going to be exes and I could be the exception and be like, well, she can't decapitate me and display my head because I'm awesome. No, she's obviously has superpowers and will make that happen. So it's a risk, which is fine. I still think I would pick that. I get the problem with the Jennifer thing with the orgasm, but the Sarlacc pit. That's very contradictory. And now I can
and no
just
love
think,
for Margot, huh?
Okay, because you gave me her. What were her positives? She's from
She lives in Hogwarts.
Hogwarts.
And she just has a vibrating tongue.
Yeah, the vibrating tongue doesn't really sell me. I'm assuming
that never worked thing is getting me, so I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I know that's hard to overcome. Well, did you tell me any negatives about?
Oh no, you skipped her altogether already.
Yeah,
Would you like to her?
I was kind of already just.
Her only negative is that she literally won't stop talking about their mother.
Oh well, yeah. Then yeah, that's definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an easy choice. I would
Olivia?
Olivia, yeah.
Final answer.
Final answer.
Alright, then you are now... You no longer have to work, and you are now with an Asgardian decapitator.
Yeah.
Do not break up with her.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, I have to make sure and make it work.
Alright, then there you go. You have an Asgardian girlfriend. Alright then, let's get into the second game. So, the second game is Inheritance. Listeners, Inheritance is where I'm going to be offering our contestant a certain amount of money, and along with this money comes a curse. And they have the option on taking the money and the curse, or denying it altogether. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. Let's see here. I have 3 offers. Okay, let's go with this one first. I'm gonna offer you. Let's go with $250,000.
Nice.
Okay, but every time your voice gets above regular volume, your pants turn into an inappropriate shorts.
Okay. All right.
Would you take the money? Or why wouldn't you take the money?
I would absolutely take the money. First of all, I'm pretty good at controlling my voice, regardless of my emotions. Steven has called me a robot or Vulcan or anything like that, so I can control it. And in the case where I'm not able to control it, and if that does happen, short shorts are not necessarily bad enough to get rid of. What do you say, $250,000?
Yep, quarter mil.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I would. That's fine. I can live with short shorts every so often for $250,000. I would wear short shorts my whole life for $250,000.
All right, there we go. Hang on. $250,000 is yours, and your first cursed. All right, let's go with the next offer then. Let's go with. I'm gonna go $1 million, a solid $1 million on this one.
Nice.
So, $1 million, but whenever you smell something pleasant, a rhinoceros charges out of the nearest bush and straight at you.
What? Okay. The logistics of that are a bit odd. Like, so if I'm at home and I'm like baking cookies, a rhinoceros just
charges
my
in.
house
Yeah.
for $1 million.
Hey, keep those baby diapers around a lot.
Yeah, exactly. If I could just maybe plug my nose and not smell anything good. Rhinoceros. Huh. I mean,
You can deny the offer as well.
yeah. Okay, so I mean, to take this as seriously as possible in my real life. So I am just in my life. If I smell, I mean, basically the only positive smells I can think of are mostly food. There's other good smells, perfume, flowers, whatever. But mostly what comes to mind is food. And then a rhinoceros would charge me. So the whole out of the nearest bush is weird because I live in such a city. Like, there could be places where there aren't any bushes, but I'll just assume like there's a rhinoceros nearby. Charges me, so it doesn't necessarily hit me. I can like jump out of the way. So I suppose what I would have to do is in my daily life where I can't control what smells I smell, I'd have to be on high alert, and if I do smell something good, I'd have to like pay attention and jump out of the way of a charging rhinoceros. If I'm at home, I don't want the rhinoceros to destroy my house or injure anybody I love, so I would have to try to avoid to smell something good. I maybe could put like a plug on my nose or do something to prevent that. And then the payoff for all this effort would be $1 million, which is a significant amount of money, even in our stupid California world. Well, because $1 million, I mean, you invest that, and that's basically, you could, like, the phone would give you a pretty good, extra money. Yeah, I mean, I would take it. I would figure something out, but I would definitely take $1 million.
All right. Hey, you worked it out. You have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So the $1 million is yours, and the second curse has been acquired. So this is going to be the final offer. I'm going to bump this up because of what got pulled from the deck. And since you live in California, I'm gonna make it a little bit nicer. I'm going with let's go with 50 mil.
Oh. Then yes, I would take it.
That's it? You don't even care?
Okay. Whatever it is, I'll take it. Okay, what is it?
All right, he takes it, guys. So now, Devin, every time you take your 3,000th step, everyone within a half a mile vicinity wants to kick your ass.
Vicinity
3,000th. So every time you walk 3,000 steps.
Wants to kick my ass for $50 million. I would take it. That's for sure. I would a few things, because $50 million.
You can ask me any question to kind of elaborate what it might mean.
Well, okay, so I mean, questions. They want to kick my ass. Do they like approach me and try to kick my ass? They just want to, but they don't act on it. Like, am I gonna have to like fight off like 100 people every time I do that?
That is on an individual person. There are people that might have the ability to do so, and there are some people that just think it and are just passive. So
okay, then I guess the other
it's a hit or miss on that one.
The other more important question is, so, like, my personal loved ones, does it affect them as well? So if I'm at home and take that step, does my wife then, like, not like me anymore? Because that's more significant than some random stranger wanting to kick my ass. I don't care if some random stranger wants to kick my ass.
As far as this current scenario, it's everyone. It's everyone.
Okay, so that is more significant. Because before, I'm like, I don't care if strangers hate me. Like, okay, fine. And I can just ride it. Well, this applies to everyone, but I can just ride a Segway everywhere. But but when it comes to like personal loved ones, that's a different issue. Once they kick my ass, is it permanent, or she wants to kick my? I mean, come on. She already probably has sometimes kick my ass, so it's not like. Does it fade away? Does the circumstances change?
Okay, we're gonna add that it'll fade away within a 15-minute period. This intense hatred of you.
Okay, well then that cuts towards then accepting it, because even if it's my wife or son or friends, I mean, Steven also probably wants to kick my ass every so often, but 15 minutes, I can live with that. So I would definitely take it. I would ride a Segway, like I said, just to reduce the times it would be an issue. But for $50 million, I could quit my job. I could work out more frequently, get some training, some like martial arts training, and then it would be almost kind of be fun. Like every so often be like, all right, I'm going to go take my 3,000th or 30,000th?
3,000.
I'm going to go, wow, that's frequent, but I'm going to go take my 3,000th step so that I can have like a cool kung fu type thing where I kick some people's asses. Like, for the hell of it. Like, I think I could live with that. I would try to keep track of it so that I could not have it affect people, like friends and family, so that when it gets close, I could be like, okay, I'm a few steps away. I'm going to go get on my Segway. I'm going to go, like, out to somewhere. I'm going to go take that step. I'm going to go do it at, like, a... white upper class neighborhood, so it's all like wusses who are going to come out to try to kick my ass, and then I'll beat the crap out of them. It'll be self-defense, so I'll be justified, and then I'll just be fun. I mean, as long as it doesn't happen somewhere where there's like people who are going to shoot my ass, I'm fine with it. So for $50 million, yeah, totally, I'd take that.
Okay. Hey, you were able to rationalize the best of your ability. More power to you. So 50 mil is yours now, and
So I have $51,250,000. Sweet.
And 3 curses altogether. So as long as you're not yelling, or smelling something pleasant, or walking too much. That would be a random set of constant curses happening all at once. Just a rhinoceros charging at you while you're just in short shorts fighting off people.
I might be able to use the rhinoceros to my advantage. If I was like fighting off people, I could like have some kind of smell that's pleasant and then use the charging rhinoceros to like knock away some of the people who are trying to kick my ass.
Hey, use any way you can.
Yeah.
All right. All right, then that's the end of the game show. I hope you enjoyed that.
All right.
So we're at the point where I let my guests kind of let them know where they can find you, how they can reach you, and all that jazz.
Yeah, so I'm a host of the Science Faction podcast. You can just Google that. There are actually a few podcasts called Science Faction, but we have by far, I think, the most episodes of any other of the podcasts with that name. We're on the BS Podcast Network, so if you just go to bspn.com, you'll be able to find us and all the other podcasts on our network. I don't have much else to promote. That's the only social media thing I do. Haven't been on Twitter in like a year or two. I have a Facebook page, but I only really use it to look at what other people are doing and don't post my own stuff. Yeah, so I don't really have much else to promote. I just found this really, really awesome
Devon? Oh, okay. So, yeah, Devon's done. So, I'll have links for him down below. Look forward to that. It seems he had to leave abruptly. So, I want to thank Devon for coming on. So, I'll have all the links to Science Faction, the BS Podcast Network. So, yeah, look forward to that. So, thanks again, everyone, for listening. Until next time. See ya!
Hey everybody, my name is Grant, and I host a podcast called It's Trivial. Now, It's Trivial is a game show in which I pit comedians, musicians, podcasters, and other interesting people against one another, usually in front of a live audience for the sake of public ridicule. Hope you'll check it out. There's something there for everybody. There's stuff for people who like movies, music, history, geography, comic books, and even more. Be sure to give me a follow here on social media on Instagram and Twitter at It's Trivial Show, and check out the entire first season of It's Trivial now in your favorite podcast app. Thanks.